Soulful Sauna, Stories of Self-Mastery. Thank you for joining us. It is you, the viewer, that makes this podcast. Your host, Juliette Noske, and her guests are here to share stories of self-mastery, to inspire you and ignite the power of positive change on your own journey. Thank you for being with us. Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Soulful Sauna podcast, Stories of Self-Mastery with Juliette, myself. Today, I have no one that I'm interviewing. I'm going to be speaking with me, myself, and I really look forward to settling in with you onto this topic, which is, who are you to do this or that? Who are you? And this comes from my own experience, really, of creating this and birthing this podcast, which has taken maybe a bit more than 9 months to birth. Yes. So if you're on YouTube, you can maybe see that I am actually in a beautiful wooden sauna here. If you're on a podcast platform, then you don't have that pleasure of seeing me here in my swimsuit. I would love to thank Matt and Ken from Thermalux UK, who have allowed me to use this gorgeous sauna, and it smells so amazing. You know, even though it's not on, there's that woody, beautiful woody smell that you get in a sauna. So yes, if you haven't checked them out, please do. This subject is a big one, and I'm hoping that you will resonate with it and see something for yourself there. Maybe even get a couple of aha moments. For me, this journey of creating a podcast has been full of ups and downs, and wonderful people who have helped me on the way, people who have dragged me out of the gutter when I've been down, face down, ready to give up, and other people that have helped me with different forms of information and knowledge. And I'm very grateful to you. Who are you to do this or that? Who am I to create a podcast? Who will bother to listen to this podcast? Will I have anything interesting to say? Will people gain from this podcast by listening to it some maybe aha moments or awareness for their self-mastery journey? Do I have enough knowledge? Will I get it right? Is one of my common things, that all these self-doubts that come up. And awareness of these self-doubts is a huge part of one's self-mastery journey. So for me, I'm going to go into this more detail in another podcast, but for me, self-mastery is learning to master yourself. The self as in the identity, all the layers, and the self as in the kind of the higher self, and connecting with that. And a huge step in that self-mastery is a cultivation of self-awareness. Eckhart Tolle, someone who I love to watch, please watch him. He does make me laugh in his videos. I think he's maybe been a comedian in a past life. Yeah, if you're interested, he has loads of books, but he also has some videos on YouTube, and I don't know if he does it on purpose, but he does. There's jokes within there, and they're and they are hilarious. And Eckhart Tolle has a book called The Power of Now. And that for me is a very powerful book and a huge step in self-awareness. And I will often recommend it to my clients to use that book. It's one of the stepping stones and a big foundation in my own self-awareness. And one of the techniques in there is to begin to observe your thoughts. And when we begin to do this and observe our thoughts, in the beginning, it can actually be quite terrifying. They say that, you know, we have a huge amount of thoughts, 70,000 maybe thoughts in our mind, going through our mind every day. And over 90% are repeat and negative. So when you start to observe those thoughts, it's not a pretty sight. And over the years, as I've observed my thoughts, I've realized that the critic in me can be quite horrible, to be honest. And in the creation of this podcast, part of the critic was like, who do you think you are? Who do you think you are to create a podcast? Well, this reminds me of a quote, and the quote is, if not you, then who? And I've tried to take this on board. If not me, then who? Who will create this podcast? Who will share stories of self-mastery from their own life and from other people's lives that hopefully impact people and get them inspired to make changes so that they begin to live a life fuller and more vibrant? I don't know if you've ever had this experience yourself. Maybe you have a dream or a goal, something that you're wanting to do or achieve, and you're waiting. You're waiting and you're waiting and you're waiting until you have enough knowledge, maybe, or until you feel ready, or until you have the skills, or until you have all the resources and the money. You're waiting. And I certainly have had this, where I've had an idea of something I wanted to do. And I've waited and waited and waited so long that eventually I have looked around, and guess what? There's someone else and they're doing it. That someone else is doing it. They've taken my idea. How did I feel in that moment? Well, there was a whole cocktail of emotions. I felt angry. I felt jealous, envious. I probably felt disappointed and frustrated in myself. A lot of different things. Maybe you too have experienced this, where you've had an idea or you've had something that you want to do, and then you've seen someone else doing it. If you haven't had that experience yet, just ask yourself, how would I feel if I saw someone doing that thing or sharing that idea, manifesting it and bringing it down into reality? And maybe that will inspire you, because it certainly has inspired me to leap a bit more, to take this next idea and run with it. And even though I don't know what the outcome is going to be in the future, I have a vision of what I would love it to be. Coming back to our cultivation of self-awareness, imagine that this thing, this idea, this dream that you have, imagine that you do it. How would you feel then? So part of manifesting something and bringing it into reality is being able to live the feeling as if you already have it, or as if you've already done it. I'm jumping ahead of myself already, but that's okay. So coming back to, if not you, then who? I want you to think about what are the possible fears that you might have if you did do this thing, if you did achieve this thing, if you did get this thing. So what are the fears that are there? I think for myself, often I have a fear of taking on a lot of responsibility, and that means a lot of hard work and a lot of effort, and it brings me a sense of too much and overwhelm. Oh gosh, I'm actually having an aha moment right now myself. I remember when I was a teenager and I was in bed, and my mum had come up and she was sitting on my bed, possibly to say goodnight. I think it was maybe in the evening. And my mum was talking to me and telling me things. I can't remember exactly what. But I remember saying to her, that's enough. I can't take it anymore. I felt so overwhelmed by what she was sharing with me and the responsibility of it and the heaviness of it, that I literally was in overwhelm and I couldn't take any more. The backstory of this is that I came from a single parent family. So my mother was on her own most of the time when I was 1.5 years old. And so there was no partner for the most part for my mum to talk with, to confer with. And being the eldest child, I took on a lot of that responsibility. And it's interesting, isn't it? Because I think that when I think of doing something big, like, running my own podcast and doing all of that, I often think, oh, and I have to do it all alone. And then that brings this sense of responsibility and having to be the lead on it. And yeah, this huge sense of overwhelm and that really just feels very heavy and like hard work for me. And when I think about it, it comes down to that memory, and it's possibly that was the main foundation of where that came from. And now I can let go of that. Wow. Well, that is a big one. Just tapping to feel into that huge sense of overwhelm for me that comes there when I think of taking on something so big. And maybe your dream, your goal, the thing that you want to achieve, maybe that for you feels so big. So what do we do in that situation? What do we do when it feels so big? Well, for me, I connected with people that I knew who were already doing podcasts. One of them, an amazing lady called Aideen. and she runs a podcast about being confident in your with your voice, and specifically with singing. Maybe I'll put a link down below and you can check her out, whether that's in YouTube or the podcast platforms. So I spoke with her and I thought to myself, well, if she can do it, I can do it. And she shared with me a wealth of information, so many amazing things, and was really helpful and offered her time up. And yeah, one of the things it made me realize was that, I just see her as an ordinary person, and, just an everyday person. And so part of me was thinking, a podcast. And then I listen to these podcasts and I hear all these people speak, and I immediately put them on a bit of a pedestal. They must have a PhD in this and acting experience, or, whatever else I imagine them to have and to be. And when we do that, when we put someone else on a podcast, we put them up there, higher than ourselves, in an unobtainable position. Because actually, they're not. We are all equal. The possibilities are open for all of us. And I don't mean that necessarily I'm now going to become an American footballer, and because that's not something I choose to do. So I know when we say everything's possible, we can maybe misconstrue that and think that, I can do anything, literally. And in one sense, you can do anything. But in another sense, what I'm saying is, if you want to do something, and if that's in your trajectory, in your pathway, then it is possible for you. So yeah, coming back to the pedestal, when we put someone on a pedestal, and rather than seeing them as another person, an ordinary person just like yourself, then we make what they're doing or who they're being unobtainable to ourselves. And we often do this in our lives. And it really doesn't serve us, because then it accentuates that question of, who am I to do this or that? Who do I think I am? And I compare myself with this other person, and I judge myself, and I put myself in a lower status to them, saying, well, they're special, they can do it. I'm not. Therefore, what I'm saying is, I'm not special and I can't do it. Which most of the time, if not all of the time, is not true. What is your dream? What is that thing that you want to do or achieve? And if not you, then who? If it's not you, then who is it that's going to do this thing? I couldn't face anyone else taking this on. Not because I didn't want anyone else to do this podcast, but because I wanted to step up. Are you ready to step up is a question that I could ask you. Do you think that you are worth it? Now, there's a big one. In asking ourselves, who am I? Who am I to do this or that? What we're also maybe saying is, am I good enough? Am I worthy? And yes, I am. My self-esteem has not been the best in a lot of my lifetime. And the thoughts of self-doubting and criticizing of myself continue to come up. However, now I am more able to say to them, thanks for sharing, and see you later. Our critical thinker, our critique, can be helpful, if we are looking to reflect on our performance and improve our performance, then our critique can be very useful. It could be constructive criticism that can help us learn and grow. Maybe we could see where we could improve. So when I was running my damsels in success group in public speaking, I could look at it and I could say, okay, maybe here I could have prepared a bit more, or maybe I could have spoken a bit higher, a bit clearer, with a bit of a louder voice. So yeah, it is useful and it is helpful, but the critic that is constantly putting down and telling you how unworthy you are is not the most helpful. So maybe you could learn to observe that. And as Eckhart Tolle says, become the witness of your thoughts. This has helped me immensely. Maybe you already do this. Maybe that's something that you're already doing. And it can be done any time of day. It can be done at any moment. But what I highly recommend is that you choose a particular time. If this is new to you, for example, choose a particular time, maybe set an alarm, or, just after you've brushed your teeth, or whilst you're brushing your teeth, or while you're having breakfast, or just after you've had breakfast. And make that the time that you start to begin to observe your thoughts and become the witness of the words that are whirling around in your mind. Maybe even write them down, or maybe not. You can always write them down and then either tear them up or burn them later and get rid of them. But simply observing them brings a whole new sense of awareness and understanding of yourself. And this is huge in our path of self-mastery. If we can observe those thoughts, then we can begin to realize the impact that they're having on us. We can begin to realize how many times we're repeating these. And every time we repeat something, we give it energy, we give it power. Where we focus, if we're constantly focusing on something, we're giving it energy, we're giving it power. And ask yourself, if those things that are being said, if that was a friend, would they really still be my friend? If that was a friend, would I let them say that to me? Would I really let them say that to me? Maybe you would, but maybe you wouldn't. Maybe you would think twice about being their friend. Maybe you would question what they were saying. So yeah, just take a while, take a moment, and give yourself that space to start being the witness of your thoughts. Coming back to your dream and what right you have to do this or to do that, I invite you to maybe in this quest write down a list of reasons why and reasons why not. This is a great exercise in many ways. One of the ways is because sometimes when something is in our head, it gets bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger. And it just seems huge, whether that's a problem or a query or a worry or something that we're thinking about a lot. And it's there in our head, and it's just, like I said, getting bigger and bigger and bigger. So that's not a bad thing necessarily, but sometimes what happens is when we write it down on a piece of paper, we can get more clear on it. And it's a bit like the saying, you know, a problem shared is a problem halved. And I think part of the reason why it's halved is, apart from the fact that you're telling that person, it's just because it's finally it's out of your head, you know. Sometimes just getting it out of your thoughts and your head and your mind onto paper or with a friend, that it brings clarity. It can, like I said, halve the problem. It can make it seem much smaller than it actually is. And here you're writing the why, yes, and the why not, the no's. And what that does is that starts us getting on a path of thinking about, well, actually, you know, why do I want to do this? Why do I want to do this? What's important for me in doing this if I achieve this? So for me, with the podcast, this is important for me, and it might make me cry. Excuse me. A lot of emotion there, because since from at least 20 odd years ago, I have wanted to share tools and techniques on self-mastery, on self-development, personal development, and being able to live a life that you love, where you flourish, where you're not suffering as much. Right? It's not as painful. It doesn't make it easier necessarily. Sometimes it's harder in a way, because you're with the more awareness, you're really working at it. And at the same time, it has a lot more ease and lightness to it. So my why I want to do this is so strong and so powerful. My why not then kind of pales in comparison. So why not? Why wouldn't I want to do this? Well, it might fail and nobody might listen to this. Or people might hate it. I don't really care so much about what people think, but I do. Yes, I do. I do and I don't. So there's part of me, and that part of me doesn't care what people think. And I think part of that is, as I grow older, I begin to release that need for people to like me. And part of that is the other part, that cares what people think, is because I want people to care about what I care about. And I want people to see this is valuable. So I want to share value. And that's why I want to do it again. Why I wouldn't want to do it. What is the worst thing that could do? I guess the worst thing that could happen, is I might make a mistake like I just made. I might, it might fail, might not work. But then maybe I could try again another way. So yes, when we write down the list of reasons why we would want to do something and the list of reasons why not, I think then if it's something that really, truly resonates with our heart, with our soul, with our whole being, the why yes just completely overshadows the why no. Why not? Yes. So I think that we have come to the end of this podcast, my first podcast, and I'm really excited for the next one. And I will let you know more soon on what's coming. So just to clarify, who are you to do this or to do that? My question is, if not you, then who? And who are you not to do it? Your light is needed in the world. The darkness, whatever the darkness might be, whether that's your why not, that darkness, you can't fight it. You can't kill it. You can't attack it. It doesn't work. No. What do we do if we want to get rid of the darkness? Turn on the light. And your light is needed in this beautiful world. Stories of Self-Mastery with Juliette. Thank you for joining me. See you soon. Bye.